Welcome to Storytime, brought to you by the OWSCyCon2019, the online book event of the year. A blur of brown streaked towards Hayley's head. She screamed in shock, barely bashing it away with the sword before it could scatter her brains on the ground, which was when Larissa swung it straight into Hayley's calves. They crumpled, splattering her back into the dirt, and all the wind burst from her lungs. Coughing to cram some of the lost air back in, all she managed for her trouble was the filthy dust. Hayley spun onto her hands, spitting into the dirt to clear her mouth while Larissa loomed above her. "I told you this was pointless," the girl sighed, as if she was bored. "Maybe for you." Hayley wiped at the side of her mouth, surprised to find nothing but saliva there. Staggering to her bruised knees, she rose up. "But I'm learning a lot." Brandishing the sword in both hands this time, Hayley dug the handle end into her gut and stared defiantly into Larissa's eyes. This was the trick. She was about to tell Larissa to attack when the girl's shoulders sloped to the side. Shit! Muscles and not wanting to wind up wiped out on the ground again deflected the first two attacks. The iron in her palms vibrated when it struck the wooden pole, burning against her loosening grip until she feared she might drop it. Then what? Would Larissa keep attacking? Crap! Another swipe of the pole came for Hayley's skull. This time she dodged it, causing the stick to swing right above her. Smirking at her ingenuity, Hayley moved to strike forward when Larissa spun in a circle. Her pole moved with her, and she jammed the blunted end right into Hayley's gut. Pain erupted in an instant, the meagre meal of blackened bread rising straight up her throat. She stumbled backwards, doing her damnedest to keep from vomiting all over the ground. Her entire throat burned from the path her last meal forged, but Hayley wasn't about to disgrace herself by spewing everywhere. Just as she got a handle on it, her gorge returned to its slumbering depths. Hayley glanced up to find the wooden blur slicing for her shoulder. "Shit!" she screamed loud enough to rattle all the banners, sparks burning across her eyes from Larissa's landing a hard blow. Pain won out, and Hayley crumpled to the ground, curling onto her side. She gulped like a suffocating fish, refusing away the tears even as she reached for her surely shattered shoulder. Her fingers expected to find pieces of bone tumbling out of the ripped-apart flesh, but all she found was a roaring bruise and a tear to her shirt. Above her, the deadly stick rotated in a circle, eclipsing the view of Larissa, who was snarling at her. Shit! She wasn't going to do something weird like try and bite her, was she? "You're pathetic," Larissa hissed, her eyes shifting to that scary red haze just before someone gets a limb torn off. "Yeah?" Hayley struggled to slide back, one hand gripping to her tall shoulder while the other refused to drop the sword. If Larissa really went spare, it might be her only hope. Cold metal banged against her spine, and she glanced over her shoulder to find the half wall was keeping her trapped. Struggling to her feet, Hayley shrugged. "Gotta admit, I'm making you look good." The pole swung fast, its weighted end coming towards Hayley. But it was with words Larissa attacked instead. "You are making me look incompetent. A warrior is only as good as her opponent, and I'd look better in comparison fighting a basket of kittens." Hayley dug her knuckles against her cheek, trying to bout down on the pain ratcheting through her arm as she hefted up the sword. She had no goddamn idea how to hold it, but it was her only chance. "Stop making things so personal," Hayley said, staring up into the heartless eyes that would bring her doom. "That's how you get ulcers." Snarling, Larissa swung fast. She expected Hayley to try and block it and fail, but the girl had a better idea. Picking up her legs, Hayley broke into a full-on run, loping around the inner ring of the circle. "What are you doing?" Larissa shrieked from behind. The terror followed suit, her pole whipping through the air like a scythe as she gave chase. "Trying not to get pulverized," Hayley caught back. She didn't dare turn around, just kept on twisting in the circle of dirt while Larissa tried to remain on her tail. "You are—" "Ah!" the girl screamed, and Hayley felt the tip of the pole skitter against her spine. "Crap!" She lengthened her gait as far as it could stretch, the sword bent downward in her grip to try and aid her escape to nowhere. It had to look pathetic to the knights watching as one squire pursued another inside a metal ring that was at best 50 feet wide. Larissa continued to scream, more manic than the hill folk, her weapon creaming the air behind that wily Hayley who avoided it by the hair of her nose. "You know nothing about why you're here. You have no skills to make you worthy of becoming a squire. What's your purpose?" Larissa shrieked, turning into an old witch that haunted the moors instead of a highly trained 15-year-old. Rather than answer, Hayley continued on her run. This was probably the only thing she had under her belt, a long life of fleeing, especially from people with weapons. Dirt erupted from the ground, shrouding them from the spectators when the sole upon Hayley's flimsy shoe cracked. Dragging into the ground, she began to tumble. Her arms flailed wide, attempting to catch anything to keep her going. It would have worked too if Larissa wasn't waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Just as Hayley got her footing back, the pole jammed straight into her spine. The force shoved her clear out of those cheap shoes, and Hayley once again crashed to the ground. As her palms, scratched and bloody from the churned-up dirt, struck to keep her face from doing the same, the sword went flying free. It clanged like another funerary bell, banging against the metal wall and dying. So much for Plan C. What else could she try? Hayley was about to spin up to her feet to reach for the sword and begin again when the bottom of the pole smashed into her ribs. "Gah!" she cried, wincing away instinctively from the second attack. Her body was screaming at her to roll and never stop. Unable to keep up with the girl on the ground, Larissa kept jabbing at empty dirt where a Hayley-filled hole just formed. "Damn it! What makes you think you have any right to be here? I worked for years to become good enough to serve, and you dare to waltz in as if it is yours to claim." It wasn't tears streaming from Larissa's eyes. That might be something Hayley could use. No, a terrifying rage burnt inside those green irises. One so hot Hayley expected to find smoke gushing from her eyelids. Raising the bludgeoning end high above her head, Larissa's snake glare honed in on Hayley's unprotected head. A blow like that and they'd be scooping her brains up with a shovel, assuming anyone cared enough to bother. Hefting both her legs out of the dirt, Hayley slammed her heels straight into Larissa's knees. The girl shrieked at both the pain and the temerity of some nobody striking her. Hayley sat up, about to grab onto the end of the pole and rip it free. She got a hand onto it, yanking the gasping Larissa closer. "You're not killing me today." It was a good line. It should have sent people scattering to pissing corners and gasping awe, but she forgot the second part of that boast, having the wherewithal to back it up. Larissa dug a foot into Hayley's exposed gut and yanked her staff free with a mighty grunt. It sent Larissa staggering back, but she was armed and on her feet while Hayley was once again gasping for breath in the dirt. Shrieking to rattle the clouds of heaven, Larissa swung her pole hard right into Hayley's already bruised shoulder. "Shit!" Hayley screamed, pain erupting down her arm to her wrist and up to her teeth. "Cease your attack!" The Knight Captain's voice rang out, and for a brief second, Hayley was hopeful. Maybe Larissa wouldn't bash her skull in and dance a jig in the gooey innards. Then she got a look at the eyes. She'd seen only madder in dogs that went bad in the head. Gritting her teeth, Hayley's hand fished around backwards. Maybe if she got the sword, maybe if she tried to block with it, maybe if, blowing through the air, the staff came streaking towards her skull. She flinched deeper into her chest, hoping to cause it to glance off or minimize the damage. Fingers sliding through the filthy dirt, Hayley refused to give in. "Get the sword, block it, save your Surrey hide again." A brown hand lashed from the side, massive fingers enveloping the wood and holding it a foot above Hayley's head. She gasped and sputtered, her eyes crossing to take in the knotted wood about to brain her, before her eyes turned to follow the arm. Sir Gavin effortlessly hurled the staff back towards Larissa, who just had all the fight knocked out of her from a single amber glare. "Your orders were to cease," he said. His body relaxed, but Hayley noticed he kept his hand close in case he had to try and stop another attack. "Yes, sir," Larissa mumbled, her hands upon the ground. The knight glanced down at the pile of Hayley on the floor. She wanted to melt into a puddle from the look in his eyes, and to avoid the embarrassment of how epically she failed at this. Bards would write 3-hour odes about how to not fight like Hayley, but it was to Larissa he turned. "Help your opponent rise." Nodding dumbly, Larissa extended her hand towards Hayley. Shit, was this when a viper would slither out of her sleeve and bite fangs into Hayley's wrist? It'd be her luck. Feeling the eyes of every single person on her, Hayley gripped tight to Larissa's palm and got back to her feet. "I think we've seen enough," Knight Captain Erin ordered, clapping her hands tight to get everyone's attention. "Hang up your weapons and wait while the knights deliberate." This story time was read by Timothy Bateson and brought to you in conjunction with the OWSCyCon 2019. OWSCyCon runs from May 17th through May 19th. You can find us at OWSCyCon.ourrightside.com. Again, OWSCyCon.ourrightside.com. We have events happening across all genres. If you are a reader, you cannot afford to miss this event. You never know. You may just find your next best read.